Zach asks thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine's reported $533 million budget. I believe that would be $533 million spend. This is coming from a Forbes article. This is not rumor mill speculation, people that are just have a chip on their shoulder out to pick on MCU and they're running with any negative rumor they've heard. This is coming from Forbes, which is a money magazine. And basically, because of laws in the UK, movies shot there, they just have to file extensively what they actually spent on the movie because there's certain tax credits that they get, in which case Disney movies that shoot in the UK, essentially there's the reported budget when they come out, and then 2 years later, the tax filings come out because they're public record. And this is where we've kind of discovered that Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens actually spent $500 million. Dial of Destiny was actually $420 million. And the most recent one, report comes out, Deadpool and Wolverine, they spent $533 million, which is well beyond the budget. Most of the time when we talk about movie budgets, we mean movie spend. That's like the concept of a budget is, here's my budget, this is my plan, this is what we're supposed to spend. Budget is not what you actually spend. And so we actually use the wrong word when talking about movies, and we say budget when we mean spend. The spend for Deadpool and Wolverine was $533 million. There were some tax incentives and cash back, so they got like $100 million back. So Disney only ended up spending something like $450 million for Deadpool and Wolverine. But what this means in terms of profitability is that this movie that at first glance looks like it was an enormously profitable film for Disney because it's the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time by several $100 million, $1.3 billion. At face value, you would think that this movie would be tremendously profitable. In reality, it was only marginally profitable because they spent $500 million on the movie. And that $1.3 billion, half of that money goes to theaters. And the $533 million does not include marketing. So all of a sudden, this movie that seems like it was super profitable wasn't really. That's where these crazy out of control budgets are just absolutely destroying the profitability of Hollywood. Just out of control, spending like crazy. And like in my mind, it's not remotely obvious where this money went watching the movie. Where'd that money go? The first Deadpool was made for like $75 million. It's a much smaller film, sure. Second movie is much bigger than the first film and costs like $110, $120 million. This reportedly, or according to this, as best we can tell, cost something like 4 times as much as Deadpool 2. That is absolutely insane. Okay, we got Hugh Jackman coming back. We're going to give Hugh Jackman his tens of millions of dollars. We're going to give Ryan Reynolds a pay boost because obviously in this role he sells a lot of tickets. We got a lot of cameos, so okay, we're paying a bunch of money for a cameo. So let's add $100 million just for added cast. That gets you to $200 million. $220 million over Deadpool 2. The strikes took place while we were making this movie. So let's say that adds 20% to the budget. Well, that's about $40 million. So now we're up to $250 million. But the movie cost $533 million. Where'd that money go? Where did it go? We've already factored in for $100 extra million for the cast. We've already factored in 40% for the strikes. Where's the other $250 million going? It's not obvious watching that movie where that money went. Because it's not even like it's a road trip movie. And, like they're standing out in a field having a fight. Like it's not that big of sets. It's not it's filled with CGI, but not the kind of CGI that's really difficult to do. Where did this money go? This is what, like, this is the crazy part where people are like, is this just like Disney a big money laundering scheme? What is going on here? How on earth did you spend this much money on that film? And how could you possibly rationalize that? This was very likely going to be a $1 billion film because you can look at the previous two Deadpool movies. They made like $800 million. They were the two highest grossing R-rated films when they came out. This was going to add Hugh Jackman, so you could guess you could probably make $1 billion. But $1 billion does not justify this price tag. To justify this price tag, you have to be able to reasonably expect you're going to make $2 billion for this to become remotely reasonable and not just dangerous, reckless spending. Because at this budget, at the time this movie was made, no R-rated movie in the history of cinema could be profitable spending this much amount of money on the film because theaters keep half of the gross. So this was just unbelievably reckless spending on a movie that they had a reasonable expectation of hitting $1 billion, but anything beyond that is like you're kind of like cross your fingers and getting lucky. And so because of that, they kind of made a little bit of money, but not nearly as much as you're supposed to make when you take this type of risk. This is I don't understand what Disney's doing, just throwing money at these franchise movies the likelihood of making a reasonable this is the point. This is so risky. So what are the chances that your movie can make a big profit on it? You spend this much amount of money on Endgame. You had a very good reason to expect we're going to make over $2 billion on this. It makes sense. But when the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time has only inched past $1 billion, there's not like an upside that makes any sense to spend this amount of money. And that, I'm just like, what were you thinking doing this? Same with what were you thinking with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, with Paramount? What were you thinking spending $400 million on Mission Impossible movies? There was just no way that these budgets made any sense, and they were spending so recklessly, and then the strikes happened, and then this other stuff happened, so they were already being reckless, and then it was inflated to crazy degrees to just insane spending that I just can't fathom how these are like top business minds spending like it doesn't matter on projects where you don't need to spend $500 million to make a profitable Deadpool movie. $250 million would already be double the budget of Deadpool 2, which made $800 million. And you spent 4 times. 4 times. Per Deadline, they spent $580 million on the movie, including marketing and residuals. Okay, so I don't know if that's... I was looking at the Forbes article that had this spend, and I gave it a quick look, so that it might have said that the whole spend with marketing was $580. And then they said the tax kickbacks put the spend into the 400s. I don't know if the 580 is with the... It was pushed back to everything for the spend to make the movie to 400s plus marketing made it 580. I don't know. But at 580, half of income, half of grosses go to theaters. It gives Disney $200 million profit. $200 million profit is nice. I'll take it. And that's not including merchandising, toys, all that stuff. But when you spend $500 million, you're making a really big bet, and really big bets are supposed to pay bigger than $200 million. And there's no reason for them to have realistically expected significantly more than what Deadpool and Wolverine made. Because Deadpool and Wolverine is the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time by several $100 million. Quite literally, if it tied the previous highest grossing R-rated movie of all time, the movie would have been at the break-even point. That's irresponsible. Sorry for the interruption, but this clip you're watching right now is pulled from one of my Patreon live streams, and right now I'm doing my biggest sale of the year, a Black Friday sale where you can get 35% off a new annual subscription to my Patreon page using promo code BlackFriday25. Over on Patreon, I do multiple weekly live streams. I've done about 70 live streams this year, including over 40 Q&As, over 20 box office shows, some other things, and some other exclusives. And with that promo code, if you sign up for an annual membership, you can get all of the exclusive videos for the next 12 months for about $16 at the higher tiers. There's other perks, including at the highest tier of one-on-one video chat with me. So you can learn more about all of that stuff. But for just the next few days, I'm running this promo, Black Friday 25 for 35% off a new annual membership. Information's down below. Love it if you join.